Yeah, hi. Good morning, all. Welcome to our training session. This is our 17th day of training, and I want to welcome each and every one of you for this wonderful Saturday morning. So today we are going to have our Lightning Web Component Part 2 training. Already we had Part 1 training on March 26th by Satya from Salesforce, and today we are going to have our second session on Lightning Web Component. And if you have not gone through that, you have not attended that meeting, just go to our YouTube channel and you can go through that meetings also. And the basic important thing is we have to learn about before going into LWC, you should be familiar with JavaScripts, HTML and CSS. It will be helpful for you for a better understanding and these things. And for JavaScript videos also available in our YouTube channel. Go through it, get familiar with the JavaScript. Once you are familiar with JavaScript, it will be very easy to understand, and it is not hard things to learn. Okay, if you are familiar with these three things. Okay, today is our agenda is to have the first 5 minutes we wait for the gathering everything, and proceed with the first session of training for the day, and we will have a break by 11:15, and 11:15 to 11:30 we'll be having a break. After that, we'll be continuing our sessions and continue with our Q&A. Okay, today our trainer is Ambit Gupta. He is from 360 Cloud Technology Private Limited, and he is having 6 years experience in Salesforce. Currently, he is working in 360 degree as an senior developer. And we welcome you, Gupta, for your wonderful timing. We are going to spend with us for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow. And we are welcome you on behalf of our group. So thank you for your support, for helping us to learn LWC. And over to you, Gupta.
Hi Anand, thank you very much for introducing me. So hi everyone, and welcome to the LWC session, and very happy new year to all of you. It's been great day since like we are starting today for the LWC. So this is our LWC session in which we are gonna detail about how what is LWC, how it is uh, introduced by the Salesforce. So
Yeah, just before you can introduce yourself, your experience and things. Yeah, okay.
yes, I'm going there. So it is basically a Lightning Web Components webinar, and it will held on date of today and tomorrow. So will 9:30. And about the company myself, the company has a 360-degree cloud technology private limited. So we have 600 plus of strength, and also we have that combine of developers, specialists, some of the consultant, technical leads, architects, and we have around 400 plus Salesforce certifications. We are like very much motivate developers, consultant to have a certifications, and we have 6 offices to all over the world, like US, and in India we have 5 offices: Noida, Faridabad, Pune, Jaipur, and Kolkata. And we have around 3,000 plus projects that distribute among 600 plus uh, developers. Our team is well handled beautifully, and we serve around 30 plus industry. That industry includes all the major industries like from FMCG to financial, technical, from energy to infrastructure. So we have all this product, and we have 5 flagship products that created by our team that have data are available on App Exchange. So and that are useful for the Salesforce automation customizations. So and also we have 20 App Exchange security reviews cleared that for 5 flagship products. So and all are running live, and we have around many clients that are using the products. So the main product is our like 360-degree SMS app. So there are that have provide WhatsApp integrations, link line integrations, uh, Instagram message integrations for marketing purpose, for campaigning, and also text message provide to all over the world by using, if you want some information to send to the your customers, your B2B customers, B2C customers. So you can use that 360-degree SMS app. And also we have some other products like merge duplicates, finding, sending and emails and campaigning. So these are all our products. So we have around 40 plus partners, and we also have a platinum summit partner of Salesforce. So we are available on App Exchange. So if you can search on App Exchange, you will find our apps and the demos. So we are like top Salesforce consultant. So this is for my company. And for myself, I am Arpit Gupta, a senior Salesforce developer in 360-degree cloud technology, and I have around 6 years of experience in Salesforce domain. I started my journey in 2015, 2016 around, and it's been a really great journey for me. I learned Aura components, LWC components, and I worked on Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Marketing Cloud. So yeah, so today we are gonna in this session, in this 2-day sessions, we are going to cover different topics like introduction to LWC. And before starting with LWC, as Anand suggests, that you should be have some knowledge about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we will gonna cover some JavaScript fundamentals that can be used uh, in our LWC development. Then we will learn about how to set up our development environment, like how to install the development, since the LWC supported by developer console. So we have to use to develop. And also we will cover fundamentals, like from basic components to advanced components. We will go cover all these things, and we will cover basic components like iterations, and how to create basic components, and how to deploy the components into Salesforce org. And after that we can use our we have to use different decorators. So in LWC we have to use different variables that are called decorators. So we are gonna cover this as well. And how to access Salesforce data, since we are developing a LWC in a different environment. So we have to access the Salesforce data. So how to access the Salesforce data and do automations and do all the things. So we are gonna cover this. And if there are two components that are linked to each other, so we are going to study about how to communicate between parent to child and child to parent, and also the independent components, how to pass parameters, how to pass data from one component to another, whether it is a parent, whether it is a child, or child to parent. So we will go in now cover these things. So yeah, first let's start with the introduction of LWC. So let before we start to have the developing the LWC components, let's first understand what are the LWC, what is the LWC. why Salesforce introduced LWC now in 2019, where 5 years ago in 2014 they already release Aura components, right? And after that, what will happen to the Aura if the LWC is coming in 2019? So uh, LWC are a new programming model. It is to create a Lightning Web Components. It have a new framework, basic thin layer, very minimal of components. So uh, why sales? It is a very basic components, and it is a new programming model that have web components and templates, their custom elements. So this will cover all the things of that. This will component I will create all the components in a Lightning model, and it is built on a latest web standard. In latest web standards, by mean it will uh, launch, it is the run by the web stack is itself. It is understand by the web engine itself. So web engine means it is running, either you can run on Mozilla, Chrome, or Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, or Safari. So it will build on the latest web standards. It will give the design, it designs such that it will give the better performance. It doesn't have any framework. So based on that framework, so it doesn't have any framework, so it get loading very fast. The web engine is loaded the component very fast, so it will give the better performance. And it is also based on the modern web standards. So in 2019 web stacks, so first we have to understand that what was in the 2000 web stack, right? So why Salesforce come with LWC? Because we have to understand about 2014 web stack. And in the 2014, all the key elements that we need to create a component based framework, or to create a UI components, they were not part of a web standards. So in 2015, the web standards only have these kinds of things. In the orange, like ECMAScript 5, they have just events. They have only standard elements. They have only just a rendering. They are missing like data services, some UI components, or a component model. Like we have to create our framework, and if we are creating a framework like Node.js, Aura components, then web standards have to understand this framework. So we have to use a component model, we have to use a template, we have to create a template in our component, Aura component or React.js, anything. So it have a it a lack of a rendering optimizations, and also there are certain things that are missing. So from 2014 to 2019, there have been a lots of improvement here, like the web stack transformation is coming. So now the components that are not supported in 2014 are now supported by the 2019 web stack. So it is giving the web components, we can create a custom elements, dynamic elements. We don't have to support the standard elements. And we have decorators, ECMAScript 7s, shadow doms. So we are the from 2014 to 2019, there have been lots of improvement in a web stacks or the native browsers. All of the key elements like custom elements, shadow doms, decorators are part of web browser itself. So what is mean? It means the latest web stack is powerful enough to help us create components. We don't need a thick layer of framework like React.js, Node.js, Oracle framework. So we don't need these things, because all the custom elements, shadow DOMs, all the decorators are supported or are understood by the web browser itself. So that is why it is designed such that it will give the better performance. It based on the modern web standards. So because most of the code that you will write in LWC is understood by the web engine itself. So you don't need a thick layer framework like Aura to create these components, and it is based on the modern web standards, and it also compatible with the Aura components. So uh, that is the question when the LWC launched in 2019, that what if the Salesforce launched LWC in 2019, just 5 years after the launching the Aura components. So it means that uh, like peoples and all the developers across the world thinking that Aura is going to deprecate. So it is not like that, because the LWCs are created, LWCs developed in such a way that it is compatible with Aura components. It can communicate with Aura components, and so it is like they can talk to each others, they can handle events by each other, like sending each others, and they can communicate, they can navigate from Aura to LWC or LWC to Aura. So that is why LWC is easy to use. You can place it on any home page, any record page, any community page, or any websites, and it will give you, because of the lightning locker services and lightning design services, data services, it give you the better securities, a better testing, and a better browser compatibility. So let's compare what will is what was in the 2014 and what is the new in compared to Aura and LWC in 2019. So in 2014, more framework, it was a more framework and less native. Browser is not understanding the component custom elements, so that is why we need a thick layer of framework to to develop our custom elements, custom requirements. So it was now more frameworks, and in 2019 it is going to like more standards, because all the web engine, all the framework, all the elements or the shadow DOMs are understood by the component or web browser itself. So we it is more standard and less properties. It means we just need to use of properties, so it doesn't need any thick layer of framework. Non-interoperable components, so it is like we cannot use uh, the components to another another technology. Like if you are coming from a non-Salesforce background, like suppose from Python or Java or anything, or Java, simple JavaScript, then you have to learn the Aura component framework by itself. If you are running, if you are working on a React JS or Node.js, then there are different thick layer of framework, but so you have to learn the Aura component again. But here that is a common component model. It means the common HTML, CSS, and JavaScript uh, knowledge is enough to learn, enough to adapt LWC development. So it is also a transferable skill. Means if you are learning HTML basic things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you can all easily develop the LWC. Here the resources are hard to find because of the thick layer framework and because of the reusabilities, because of the uh, it is not widespread, the Aura components. It is only useful in a Salesforce development, so we have a less resource to find. But here we can easily map up a ramp up because we know the basic JavaScripts, and in the JavaScript functions and all things are easily available on the public sites, Google's, right? We can search from anything. So it is because of the thick layer of framework, when the browser is loading, so it have to compile the all the framework first, then it will load the data and all the things after. So it is very slow in the performance. So in the 2019, when the start of web stack, so the LWC give us a better performance. It will give you the better performance of that. So you can load a website more easily with the better securities, and we can place it on like any pages, any communities, just like Aura components. So when we develop something, so it is, we don't uh, we can't differentiate from the UI that whether it is a Aura or whether it is a LWC component, because of that compatibility. And we can also communicate with the VF pages as well. So we don't need to change, or we don't need to delete or modify our existing Aura components into the LWC if you are in a project. So we don't need to do that. So this is that things of about the LWC, why Salesforce introduced LWC. So after that, we will run about the JavaScript fundamentals. What is a JavaScript, and why we are using a JavaScript in the LWC? Because JavaScript, so first start with a JavaScript. So what is a JavaScript? JavaScript is an interpreted programming language. What it mean by the interpreted programming language? That programming language that doesn't need a compiler. It means we don't need a compiler when we run a JavaScript. Like when we run a Java code, Java .NET code, Python code, first we need to compile a whole code by itself. Then if they are giving an error, then we have to solve these things. But in the JavaScript, it, because of the interpreted programming language, it doesn't need a compiler. It simple execute as a script. So it is basically a language of the browser. So each and every browser, whether it is Chrome, whether it is Mozilla, Safari, Firefox, anyone is all they all understand, they all know the JavaScript. Because mostly websites, full stack websites or anything you can develop with the simple JavaScript codes. So every developer should know about the JavaScript, because all the things, all the websites, like around 80% of world's website are based on the JavaScript itself. Just if you can use if you are using YouTube is also based on the JavaScript, whether it is like creating thumbnails, creating a video, something. So all depends on the JavaScript. And what is the benefit of that? JavaScript can run on the client and server side as well, and it basically doesn't need a compiler. So, and also we can run this on a client side and a server side. If we want to send some data to server side, we can just call it a JavaScript. We don't need to use any Java or .NET or any functionality, mainly to make a call out or to run a command. So we can use that. And we can create a dynamic web pages, as mostly full stack developing and all the things are based on the JavaScript. So we can create a dynamic web pages. So let's start with the uh, JavaScript. So here I will create one file here. Yeah, so this is our file, and head can use a title, in the title I will add one body. So first thing we have to use adding console and comments in JavaScript. So how to use a console and comments in JavaScript? So if you can see, I am pressing F5 F12 here. So for the F12 you can use you can see the console here. So it will, whether if we are gonna use these things, so we can use a console here. So if we suppose we want, let's save it once again, JS file. So if you want to use a JavaScript, so we can just use alert here. You can see whenever I write in the console alert, it will pop up and say hi all of you. So I'm not gonna use the alert more, because this alert is stop the coding to compile. Whenever we write a alert, whenever we put alert in our JS file, our code will the code will stop when till whenever we use the OK. What if we use the OK button, then only our next code will run. So here I am using in the body source. It means uh, I scripted this HTML file with this JS. So if I am using a console log here, console log is just for just as we use in the Apex system.debug to debug any code or any value, to print any values. Simple, we can use the console log here, console log statement here. So if I reload that, you can say uh, this hello world is printing in a console. So for this similarly, let me write, there are, this is called a functions logs. So there are different functions, like if I to use error, similarly I can use a console dot warn. So if I have to reload, you can see when I use in the console, I use the function error here, it will automatically print me in red. So you can already know about that. If the log statement is printing and it give you an error, so it will print in a, it will come as a red color. And if there are some certain warning that browser give you, so similarly you can use hi am warning, and you can just, if you want to send a user a warning, so you can just use console.warn. So you can find these methods in console mdn docs. So in the mdn docs, you can find any, all the things like console.clear, count, debugs, anything. And if you want to use any functions, any methods, so you can use these things. So you can use these things to just print the information in the browser. If you want to debug something, debug the code, because javascript is something like calling a silent language, and it is also a case sensitive. So if you writing a capital console capital C here, and writing a similar console here, so these will act as a different keywords, different words. So always make sure that you are using mm, if you want to use, you can use in a lower case, so you can find it very easily. And this is very case sensitive language, and it is also silent. So we have to, you find the debugs, we have to find the errors by using console.log statements. We have to print the functions, variables, to get the information, to correct information, so what is happening in that. So after that, console statements, we have to use comments. So if you want to comment something, and if you want, if you are writing a some code and you want some description over the code, then you can just use a comment here. So the comment will be a two type. First is a single line comment, and second is multi-line comment. So if you want to comment only single line, you can just use a double slash here. uh, by using this, you can just comment. So right now it is printing three things. Let me comment error. So if you are loading, you can just see hello world and hi am warning is printing over here. And if you want to use multi-line, simply use slash and shift 8 like star. So if you use that and reload, there is nothing in the console statements here because we commented here. Third thing is how to use a variables. So there are three type of variables in the JS. We have a var, let, and a constant. So var is a global scope. Var is available for the global scope. Var just used for the global. So when we use var, it will coming as a global scope. So generally in when we develop the LWC components, we generally use let and constant. So if you can see, I will show you one example why we are not using uh, var. We generally not use var in a LWC developments. Suppose I'm writing a for loop here. But instead of printing console log here, the value here, I am just putting console dot log I. So if we are developing something, so we have to make sure that we know that if we are using I equals to 0 here, so it the variable of that the scope of this I equals to 0 will should end inside this scope, inside this middle bracket. It should not print outside the scope, outside of this for loop here. So if we are using var here, let's display, you can see it will print me 11 here. It is printing me 11 here. So we have to, if we are using a let here, then a let scope will be a local, so it is only printing, let's save it. You can say it is printing 0 1 0 to 10, and after the for loop it is giving me an error because the scope of variable, scope of let is a local. So it is only just in the middle brackets from line number 10 to 12. And if we are using the variable I of a late here outside the scope, it is giving me an uncaught reference error. So we have to make sure that we are using that. And the constant is variable when we want to use a variable, when we want to use these things, constant just for the when value, when we want to assign the variable, like console.log greeting here. Okay, I have to can see hello world. So if you want to assign a value to a particular variable and use it across the format, across the code development, so we can use a constant variables. So in LWC, when we want to use the variables in LWC development, we generally or mostly use let and constant. We generally don't use a where because of the global variables, because of the scope of a global. So we use that. And there are different data types also in a JavaScript, that JavaScripts support different data types. So let's comment this. So just like other languages, JavaScript support string and number. So number is include in JavaScript, number is include double, decimal, currency, number, integer, decimal, long, just all will combine in a number, and boolean, null, and defined, undefined, undefined. So similarly, generally we use these only these type of variables on that. And if we don't have to, suppose I using a constraint str. So we don't have to mention here a string, just like we mentioning in Python or Java and anything. We don't have to mention the string here because the JavaScript automatically know that this is a string or this is a number or this is a Boolean things. So let's use another constraint. 10.5 constant flag. Undefined. And if I want to know the type of this variable, the variable, just we can use a type of here. So if I want to know the data type of a particular variables, so what I can use a type of and a string. Similarly, I can put here a value here. So you can see the value is printing as a high fox, and it is giving me the type of the which data type is using here. So I am using here a inverted comma, and in inverted comma I put some text here. So it is giving me a string. Same goes if I use a number here. You can see 10.5 is printing, and it is giving me the data type of that number. Same goes with true, a boolean. Same with if I'm using a null here. Let's see what is giving me. It is giving me the null, and it is giving me a object because it is not defining anything. It is giving me a null, so it will act as an object. Same goes with the if we are using an undefined, so it is giving me undefined, and it is giving me the object because we did not mention the value here, whether it is like boolean or number or uh, string. So it is giving us objects here. So this way we can define here. So if we want to use a variable, a string, just to put any variable like let or constant and use same it is. We don't have to mention the data type name like a string, number, boolean, because the JavaScript automatically know what data type it is. So let's comment. So this is we have to look into that. And after that, I will give you one more data type, that is like one more JavaScript fundamental, that is array. So array is just like a list when we use a list in a Apex. So it's just like a list. So if I want to use an array, so what I can use, I can just use a constraint array variable, and I can define a value here. So let's suppose I'm defining 14, and if I'm saving here, you can see array will printing, and it will give me the size of 3, the length of array, and it will give me the 0th of index, 1th of index, and 2nd of index, and it is giving me the length of array, like that is 3. So if I want to use this array, like particular list or something, then we can use a array. So if there are some functions that array can support, like suppose if you want to push the value, if you want to add the value in the array, so what you can use, you can just use a push method here. And if you want to suppose a 15, you want to push it, so copy this and save it. So just like before the pushing, it is only the 3 variables, 3 indexes there, 12, 13, and 14. And if I push here for 15, it is giving me 15 here. Similarly, if you want to extract, and if you want to extract some value, if you want to delete some value, so just you can use you can, instead of push, there is one function called a pop here. So if you want to pop, and if you want to suppose any value like 12 here, then let's load. So you can use these things. So this one, this yeah, it is giving the index here, sorry. So let's save it, and it is sorry, I am using, okay, yeah. If I want to pop up any value, so I can use it here, 12, 13, 14. After that, it is giving me any pushing. I push the value here, and after that it is popping. It means it extracting the value here, 15. So this is called an array. So I can use this array in that, if suppose I want to print a 0th index, so what I can use, I can just use middle brackets and just array value, and it is giving me a 12 here. So it is giving me the value of 0th index. Same goes with the like third, if you want to use a second. So it is start with 0. So 0 will be the first element. After that, it is giving me the length of that element. So this is called array. Same goes the another concept, and another JavaScript fundamental is called object. So object is just like collections. It is a collections of values. Just like if you heard about a JSON body, then you can use a JSON format. So if I want to use a object, suppose I am using a object student here. So how to use a object, how to define an object? Simple. Just like in array, we use a square bracket, or we use a big bracket. Just here we have to use a braces, middle brackets. And in the middle bracket, if you want to define anything, uh, you can just use a key value pair here. So let's suppose I'm using here Anand age. So you can define any particular value. Yeah, here we use a comma. And similarly, you can define any variable here. Uh, just like flag here, uh, true. Yeah. Yeah, instead of this, we have to define just like a key value pair. And let's you can see in that objects it is giving me all the value of name, age and flag, and along with that it is printing me all the things. And there are some methods of particular things, so you can, if you want to this is printing if we're using the console.log of a student here. So we are giving only the student value, like student, only the student things, and it will printing me all the object, all the variable, all the key value pair that is contained in particular object. So if I want to print only a particular key, a particular key of value, like I want a student name only, so what I can use, I just use student dot and a name here. So let's save it and reload. So you can see in the student object it is printing me all the things, but when I'm referring in the object, I'm referring a particular key, student dot name, it is printing me its value. Same like map, as we are using a map, so we have to use dot get function. So similarly, instead of dot get, and we are using just dot here, instead of using dot here, we can use one more thing. Just like in array, when we want a particular element, so here we can use same with square bracket, but instead of just writing a name here, let's see if we are writing a name, it is giving me an undefined, because I am not using a inverted comma, I want a which particular key, so I have to mention this in a single inverted double inverted comma. And you can see let's print here age. So you can see it is giving me an Anand, name of Anand. So, and also if I'm using just like an array, if I want to particular element, want a particular element like age. Here the element is not defined as a like 0, 1, 2. It is defined by its key. So if I want to use print age, so I can use either student dot age, student dot name, or student dot flag, or I can use student just like array square brackets and the key value here. So same, suppose I want to print, there is another way of printing the whole of the student here. So student dot uh, sorry object dot entries of student uh, okay I think I just okay I didn't define the object here. So students here, Let's use where here. Okay, it is something. I just forgot the syntax over here, but you can use similarly, you can type it here just like student. So similarly, you can type student dot entries here. And if you want to delete, suppose I am adding one more here, fees 1000, and I want to delete particular key value here. So what I can use, I can just use a delete here, delete of student dot, I want a fees, I want to delete a fees here, and let's, you can see right now it is showing me age, flag, name, and the fees here. And after that it is not printing any fees, it is giving me just only the three of elements, it is not giving me the fourth element. So you can use these things. So these are objects. Now there's another topic is called functions here. So functions is a very important topic when we use LWC development or any JavaScript development. So functions is just like a collections of statements that you can execute or call on demand. So when you call have to demand, so just like we use a array, like this is array, so this is just a like simple array. But if we want to do something with this object, right, we want to execute some code or command here, so what we use dot push here, and giving the adding the value here 15, right? So we are, this is called, this is act as a function, this is called as act as a variable, and in variable we are pushing some command, we are giving the this array to particular command, right? So this is called our functions. So function is just like we use in Apex, just like a methods, right? We use a methods in a particular class. So for that we can use, we use call a class dot whatever we methods, and we are passing some parameters. So just like we use here. So let's using a function greet here, and inside this user group, and I am just calling this function over here. So when I load this, you can see it is printing me hello Salesforce user group. So if I am not calling this, it will just act as inactive properties, because it is just created, but it is not called or it is not execute in the console or in the JavaScript file. So we add, if we reload, we saved it and we reload it, we didn't call this function, right? So it will not calling, and it will not execute this command. If we are calling a greet, so it will fetch the greet function, and it will execute inside the middle brackets, it will execute inside of this scope all the command of code, all the line of code it will execute. Suppose I will add another here, Yeah. So all the line of code inside this scope will execute automatically. So in the same way, and we can use these functions. You can use this just like a constant, a greet. If you are using a, suppose I'm using a greeting here. So in the same way, there is another way to call a function here. We have to just define the function, and so if I want to use here, and instead of that, we are printing a greeting here. You can see it will print me all the functions here, right? If you want to execute and if you want to look into the particular function, what is doing here, what is the value, so you can just use it here and it will call you. And suppose if I use here, let's try to see. Yeah, it will give me, because it's a constant, not an object. So yeah, so same way you can use it here. This is your speaker. So just like this, we can use this. And there is another thing in the function. One is called arrow function. So this is a very important, it is called a like single line function or arrow functions. So when you have to use these functions, so what you can use, you can just use it like constant greeting to, and instead of function and middle brackets, you can just use a middle bracket equals to and angle. It is called an angle bracket. So it will act as a function, and if you want to use this, just you can put it here and you can put the console dot hello here. So you can use simple the arrow functions. So it will print me, it is just act like this value, a function called greet. So just like this, and you can use these things inside LWC components. Yeah, so now how to combine these all the informations, right? And how to use these things, how to use a return type here, right? Suppose you want how to pass a parameters, right? So suppose you write a constant of sum. I want to sum the things, and let's use one function like function of sum. I'm passing here a comma b value, and suppose I want to return something, right? So what I can use, return a plus b, right? And if I want to call it console.log here, and I'm calling sum of function 4 comma 5 here. uh, let's yeah, so you can see in the arrow functions, I'm using console.log here, so it will display all the functions. And if I'm calling the function, because the constant I'm using as a function, so if I want to call a function, I just use a greeting to and the function method, and it will just like use as a this function or these basic function. So this is called an arrow function, right? So instead of using a function and slash, you can just use middle brackets and equals to greater sign. It is called an angle bracket. So you can use it, and in the single line statement you can pass it any statements here, right? So same goes with this one, right? If I want to pass a parameters, right, a comma b, I am passing two parameters, and I want to return from the functions, I want to return something. So if I am to use like return sum, I can just call it here, and it is the same thing. I'm just using as a, so you can use 4 into 5, it will return addition. It will go here 4 and 5, it will assign the value here, and adding the sign a plus b 4 plus 5, and returning me the 9, the what is the sum of that. Same this is the like a small function. So for the small functions we have to write functions method, then sum and a plus b, the passing the parameters, and then use a return ab. The same way we can write this piece of code by using arrow functions. So for arrow functions we can use, instead of function and middle bracket, right? So in the small bracket we are passing a parameters, right? So we can just use a comma b here, we are passing a parameters and using angle brackets. And here what I am returning, I am returning a plus b. Let's multiply this so you will differentiate. So here I am returning a multiplied by b, and if I have to use it there, uh, just console dot log sum of, I want to use 4 comma 5, so it should return me 20. Let's reload. Okay, sum is already defined. Oh sorry, I will using a multiply here. So see, a same function can be wrote down like just this here. So in the same, we are summing and returning. So we have to write a function keyword, then we have to write a method, function method name, and then passing a parameters, and inside the middle bracket we have to return a plus b. So if we are calling the constant variable and we are calling just 4 and 5, then it will return me the value here. We can just use a single piece of code, single line of code, like multiply. Instead of writing a function and the function name here, we can just passing a parameters in the middle brackets and passing the angle brackets. After that we can just write in the middle bracket whatever the function is returning, right? There is another way, and you can see, if we are scraping and if we are not using the functions and sum, that is like function is a standard keyword for the function. So same way we can also deprecate this return statement. So what we can use, instead of I will use as a subtract. So instead of using a return here, I can deprecate this return. I can deprecate this thing, and I am just using a minus b. So instead of writing whole function, if this is a single piece of code, so instead of writing just like if statements or ternary operators, right? So we can use the single piece of code, and here what we can use, I am using here 6. See, it is giving me the results, same results, right? If I use like suppose plus here, and same way goes with the 4, you can see a 9. So similarly, if we have to use a single piece of code, single line of code, we can just use it here, a single lines of code, single piece of code. So this is we can use we can use in LWC developments, right? So we have to use these functions and these parameters. uh, we can either use normal functions, and after the 2019 web stacks, we are this is the arrow functions is called, and is arrow functions is returning something like it is when we have to convert single line of code. So we can just write it here, and if there are multiple coding, multiple line of code that wants to execute, then we can perform in the middle bracket. But if we want a single piece of code, single returning, single calculations, then we can just use like this. Inside of using middle bracket, we can just put it here. uh, it is like something like same with the ternary operators. If you don't know ternary operators, it is just like a constant. It's like I will give you one example. Like I am using constant x is 20, or constant y is 21. So uh, constant result here, and it just like a simple if else statement. So suppose I am writing a if statement. If x is greater than y, then console.log x is bigger, else y is bigger. I will comment this. Let's execute. You can see y is bigger. So it is, instead of going into this, it is going into this because 21 is greater than 20. So it will printing me console.log, this console.log statement, that is y is bigger. Now for the single piece of code, I have to just check if x is greater than y or not, right? So for the single if statements, I have to write a 4-5 line of code. So same way, in the same way, what I can use, instead of using this, I can use a ternary operators. So ternary operators, just like a single piece of code, so it will combine, it will check first a condition, just like in if statement, right? We are checking some conditions here. So yeah, we are checking some condition, and after that we have to write some if else statement, right, inside of if and else. So this is called a question mark, a keyword, and after that a colon, right? So between the question mark and the colon, it will give me my true result here, a true result here, and here it will give me a false result here. Okay, so suppose let if x is greater than y, then I will use x is bigger, otherwise I will use y is bigger, right? And I am printing I'm just calling this instead of this. I can get rid of this as well, right? And let's use it. You can see y is bigger, and suppose I'm using 112 here. You see, so I can use a single piece of code, it is called ternary operator. So I can use a single piece of code here, and instead of inside the single piece of code, I can use if else statements, right? And I can also use multiple if else, like we as we use if else, right? So similarly we can use a z, suppose 45, right? If x is y, x is greater than y, right, then I have to check again if x is greater than z or not, right? So if it is x is greater than y, then I will check if x is greater than y or not. Then I will put another variable here, x is biggest, right? And I will put another colon here for z is bigger. Let's execute. Yes, you can see z is bigger because first it will check for x is greater than y. Yeah, 20 is greater than 12. Then it will go in this line of code between the question mark and the last colon, and it will check again if x is greater than z. If x is greater than z, no, then it will bypass this because it is for the true, it is for the false, so it will go into the false and it will display me z is bigger. Same way, like we can use these things. So this way we can use LWC fundamentals, LWC JavaScript fundamentals. We use JavaScripts. We can use console comments, variables. What are the variables like var, let, and constant? Generally, we use let and constant. And the data type. What is the data type? Like string, number, boolean, null, and undefined. Uh, Null is something that can have some value. What is the There is one more thing that I need to mention. What is the difference between null and undefined? So null is something that can have a value. Null is can value, and undefined means the variable or the data type is not yet defined yet. It is not defined any of the scope in any of the command in any of the code. So that is called undefined. And similarly, we can use array, objects, and functions. In the functions, we have two things: a simple functions, simple JavaScript functions, and one more arrow functions. And the last thing are ternary operators, where we use a single if-else statements. So these are things. And now let's move to the LWC environment, LWC development environment. In LWC development environment, before we start to develop things, there are certain codes, there are certain things that we need to install in our computer, in our machine. So since as you know, many of you know that developer console is not supported LWC developments. So that is why we are going to set up a local environment. That LWC development is happening in a local environment. So for this, first option is download and install the Salesforce CLI. So instead of using just this, you can just use Salesforce CLI installed and click on the first link, and you can use any of the let's use installed Salesforce CLI or download. So you can use first thing, first link, and in this link, based on your machine OS, whether it is Mac or Windows or Linux. So you can use for the Windows, there are 2 bits like 64 and 86 right now. So I think most of the machines are based on like 64 bits. So you can just click on it and install it. I already have a Salesforce CLI installed. So after the installing, just you can use in the just go to command prompt, uh, just like in the terminal window, command prompt, just you can use run sfdx update command. So after the installing, just run it this sfdc command. For me, uh, I already have the latest version. So what is it is going to do, sfdx update is going to update your CLI, Salesforce CLI software, into a latest version. So mine is already on latest version, I already deploy. So currently the version is 7.144. So and it will give you all the release notes. Yeah, so after that we have to install a VS Code. So just go into the Google and VS Code installed, VS Code download. So go into the first link. Yeah, based on the same machines, it will give you the options to download. And after that you can install it, and this will open a VS Code. So a VS Code is just some like this. it will have like file where you can use new files, and after that terminal window here, it is also giving the terminal here. So when you write sfdx update here, you can also, after the installing of VS Code, you can just running the command here as well. It will give you the same things like already on latest version. So after installing the VS Code, there are certain extensions that help you to write a code. Same way, like if I'm writing a code here and I have to use, suppose I'm using a class Apex class here, right? So by using Apex class, I need some of the help from the Apex side, right? So I want some of the functions that I didn't remember. I need to give me the suggestions, right? So this is called like Explorer, where we can use all over the files and folders. And this is thing, this is, you can tab, in this tab you can click on that, and extension. So there are certain extension. uh, this is Salesforce extension pack, or you can just use extension pack expanded. So it will give you all the extensions like Apex interactive debuggers, Salesforce CLI integrations like that, integrate the uh, VS Code to CLI, that I run the Salesforce command. Salesforce CLI is basically used to run a Salesforce commands in a VS Code. Aura components, helper, LWC, Visual Force page, LWC, validators, just some prettier formatters. So you can use this Salesforce extension pack here. You have to install this pack before we start our development here. And there are certain SFDX commands, just like sfdx update, we run the command here, sfdx update, right? So just like these commands, we have certain commands of that sfdx. So yeah, I think it's 11.5. So we will, after downloading that VS Code, you will install the some of the extensions, and just make sure that if you are using a development org, your development org, then you have to use enable the domain org to develop LWC. Or you can use, but what we can use, you can just create a playground, a different playground. So for this, I I'm using my Salesforce playground here. Uh, so I am using Salesforce org here, the Trailhead playground for the development. And here, when you write a domain, my domain, so make sure if you are using your developer edition, developer org to develop, 1 second. Yeah, for me, this development org for the Trailhead playground, my domain is already enabled. So make sure you you enable the my domain settings, and also enable dev hub. So click on the dev hub, and yeah, enable. So make sure you enable. Once it will enable, you can't disable these settings. So you can enable these, enable dev hub, and also enable source tracking before the start with the development. So there are something things. So yeah, we can just take a break from here, like 11:30, and from the 11:30 we can get back again. We can connect this.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Can you start the session back? If you have any doubt and clarification on this part so far.
Yeah, hi Anand. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm seeing some comments that some of the parts are already covered. So I didn't aware of that. So I will skip some like Salesforce CLI commands. I think it is already covered, and I can start with the LWC development from the beginning. So like creating a Scratch development component to the advanced development.
Yes.
So yeah. So as you know the Salesforce CLI commands, so I will just skip this. I will just create a project right away. So this is SFDC. Uh, so from the palette, we can create a project, a new project. So that will have all the things like Aura, LWC, all the things. I will authorize this. So yeah, I think I have already authorized my Trailhead Playground org. Let's just wait for minutes. Yeah, so here there is no default org set. So okay, so I set it up my default org. So I will create a first lightning component here. So we can just go right click and like first LWC. So as you can see in the LWC, we have three types of in the LWC component, we have three types of file. in a component bundle. First is HTML, that we can write our HTML codes, our UI, and second is JS file. It is called like controller of a component. So whether if we want some writing of functions or if we want some event handling, so we can do that. And in the meta files, as some of you know and some of you don't know, so I will explain this. In the meta file is used generally for exposing the particular component to the home page or record page or anywhere, like whether we want any communities or any utility bar. So where you want to expose your component, you can use you can put some text here. I will show you once I will deploy this. So we can use the tags here, and on the tag we can deploy, we can show the components where we want. Same in the HTML. So let's start with the development. I will deploy this first. So yeah, so my deployment is successful run, and here there is in the lightning design library, if you install some extension, so it will give you all the lightning options, all the lightning design systems, uh, tags and all that you can use it here by using a component. So I am creating a lightning card here with the title, my first LWC. So here I can just, now I want this is my LWC, and if I want to use some values from the JS side, so in the JS side there is two things. First is like import, where we want to import something, where we want to use our development or our decorators or our anything, our anything that we want to use our static resource, our documents, our image, or our like record pages or something, anything that we have to import these first things, and then after we can use it in a export. In export, this is like JS controller side, so we can use this. So let's look one variable. So before spring 2020, if we want to use a variable from JS to HTML or HTML to JS, we have to make it as a reactive. But after spring 2020, there is no such things. We have to, before 2020, we have to use like a track decorators for every variables, and first we have to import these tracks from LWC, and after that we have to use track for every variable that we are using in HTML or in the JS to make it to make the variable as a reactive. But after the spring 2020 release, these track decorators is not necessary until we using any complex array or objects in the JS side. So until we didn't use it, any complex objects or array, we don't have to use it to make it a reactive. By default, it will make a reactive. So I don't have to use it right now. So
What we mean by reactive?
reactive is just like if we using Visual Force pages, you know about getter setter methods, right?
Mm.
So just like we get the information from HTML to JS and JS, and we are sending setting some values and sending from JS to HTML, just like we use to make it a reactive. if we are changing some value, like if suppose I'm using a lightning input variable here, and I'm inputting some values here, then it should automatically have the value of that variable in that particular variable, right? So that is the reactive means. So I am using a React greeting called hello world. To use it any variable from JS to HTML, we just have to make it like this. In the middle bracket, we have to store some informations. So, and I want to expose this. So I will set it as a true. And in the targets tag, if I want to use it on a home page, I will just use it as a to use it on a suppose a home record page. So you can just use like record page, something like that. So I have to just use it uh, on home page. So let's deploy this source. It is deployed. Let's go to any page over here, and in the home page I want to put it my component. Here you can see if I'm using a LWC here, LWC, and expose it to the home page, it will appear. I will deploy this and save it. Now you can see. So if you are using a lightning card, it means it will display like as a white background, and in which when I'm using a title here, so it will give me the title, and I'm just using a simple tag, so it will print me hello world. Now if I want to take input from a user, then I can use a lightning input tag, and in which tag I can put a label like enter your text, will be the type will be text. So this components will look up. We can just a greeting here, or maybe I will just take another components, input text, and I want this particular value. So by using a on change event, I am make it a variable. Whatever I am typing, I have to show it right below. So like this. Inside the, so in that on change events, so I have to make it on change event handler. Make sure of that. So this is called a function, but it will invoke whatever if I'm changing something. So it will fire, this function will fire on a particular event. So I will make it input text. Make sure if you are using, if you are setting some values and if you are referring the variables or anything variables, make or any method, make sure you use this keyword. So this keyword will take the value and make it in the scope. It will define as a scope. So make sure you use this keyword, and after that you can use event dot target dot value. So it will fire on change event, and this will give you event means on change event dot target means this target, this lightning input. So whatever you are typing in that box, it will coming right away here, and dot value. So dot value, whatever the value is you are typing here. So let's deploy. Make sure you hard refresh, so it will clear all the cache, all the cookies, all the cache from your components. You can see hello world, that is come from greeting, and you can write your own text here. And in that text, if I'm writing something, like suppose I'm typing, you can see if I'm typing h here, the automatically it will set the value, it will show me the value right away, because I'm putting some value on the on change event, means the value of this particular lightning input text is changing, right? If I'm putting some values, or maybe I am just like this, and if I'm deleting something, you can see the same way you can use it like this, right? So there is one more thing, you can take it as a label as well, and also you can just put a name. Let's suppose input one, right? So if you have suppose two input text, right? So this one like two input two, and you want to use only one on change event handler, and you want to display all the things here. So what you can use, I'm just using input text one here, right? And if you want to use only one event handler, so what you can use based on the name, or maybe a label. Label can be same maybe, but a label can be long. So instead of using a label, you can use a name here, right? Name is just like a ID. It will give you the particular ID here. So if you can use like constraint uh, name ID, right? So it will be event dot target dot name. You can take a name here, and if you get the name here, if name ID is equals to input, same ways. So if the input, if we are input the value from first, then I will go as a input text, and here in the one, let's deploy. Yeah. So if I'm writing here, you can see it will coming in a first text, and if I'm writing here, so based on the name, it will coming not in the first, it will coming here in the second text, right? So based on the IDs or based on the name, you can use only one event handler, and you can use it simple if else statements, and in the simple if else statement you can put the value, you can assign values in anywhere you want, right? So this is called like data binding on these things. So yeah, so we have component bundle and data bindings. So when you want to make it set it a value from in the JavaScript controller, in the controller, and you want to give the information to your HTMLs, to your UI component, you can just use before 2020, say spring 2020, you can use track operators, but now for the purpose, for the simple lines, simple piece of code, you can use simple variables, and make sure you use this event, this dot, because it will refer the whole class, all the scope, this scope. So and now it will come conditional re-rendering. Let's suppose I want to if I am writing in a, if I'm inputting the text here, right? I don't want to show this text, like second text, and if I'm inputting the values here, I want to show the text only this one, right? So how can I use like just we use if else statement here in the HTMLs. The Salesforce LWC also have if else statement for the HTMLs, that is called a template if true statements. So like this template, we can use if false and if true. So if we want to invoke this template on particular true statements, right? So let's use two variable. So input text, so input text one. So, and it will contain only a true value here. So if the input text, first text you want to show, then you can put it right away here. Same goes with if I want to use and for this I want to show only input text first. If I'm writing the value in the first text box, so what I can do, I can just use a variable this dot so input text and I will set it as a true. So it will only display me the first if statement. Same way, if I'm writing a true here, then yeah, and the same way if I am writing here I want to show this only, so I will hide this. So yeah, so if I'm writing values here, it means I want to show only this. Your first text is, I don't want to show this text, so I will false it, set it false here and set it true here, right? It is deployed. Let's refresh it. Now you can see all either the your first text and second text is not appear because I am not setting any of them as a true, right? I am not as a default, I am not setting any of as true. So it means the both are getting disappear. Now if I start writing in first text, you can see I am the first text, right? Same way if I'm writing in the second, you can see it will show me the second text, right? It will hold the value, but it will not show. If I suppose if I'm starting deleting the values here, you can see it is showing me the first text, but it means it is holding the value, proper value of that, but it is not showing until we are setting a true and false here, right? Same way we can set it like this template if true statements and all. Let me delete all the things. Let's so this is called a condition statements, condition if else statements. Now we will show looping or iterations. So what it mean by the looping? Looping means if we have some of the collections of records and if we want to show a by list or maybe one by one, so what we can do, we can use a looping or iterations. So in the LWC there are two way to show. First is we can either use in the template tag, we can use either for each, or the second is we can use a iterator. So there are two way to show the list here. So let's start with the first. Suppose I have a list. Let's use BRICS countries, right? We have BRICS countries, so in which we have Brazil, China, India, Russia. Yeah, BRICS. China and South Africa, right? And I want to show this like one by one. So what I can use, I will just comment this. I'm not, or I will just report. Yeah. Now I want to show them one by one, right? So what I can use, template for each. So in this for each, what is coming? It is coming the whole of the collections, the collection list that I am referring here. So this is my pricks list. Now after the for each, I want to iterate one by one. I want to looping the one by one. I want to show my values one by one. So what I can use, for each, for item, for any item, for every item I want to show, right? So I can use here any variable. You can want to use any variable if you want. It is just like a variable. So I'm using a country here, right? And inside I want to show, inside the p text, let's use and a country. The variable we are setting it here, just we have to show right over here. And make sure if you are writing like list or something, you can always have a habit or should use a key here. So it will give you, for every result it will give you a different key or different ID. Let's deploy. You can see Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So what is doing? It will contain all the list, all the array. In that array, I want to iterate for each bricks, for each item. I want to show the country, right? Same way, if I want to use a iterator, there is one more term, iterator. So we can use also iterator. So I'm giving you one more examples. Like let's use a quad list here. Right. So in the quad we have USA, India, Australia, and Japan. Now I want to show this in a list. So in the template, I can use a iterator. So iterator it means for every it will iterate. Let's use it quad list. So what is gonna do? It will iterate for every it means this is just like we use in the for item we use one particular variable, so same way we can use here a particular variable. Generally it will show the it, but we can use any variable that we want, just like quad. I'm using a quad here, and in the template same way instead of country I'm deploying a quad. So instead of just using quad, we have to use quad dot value. Yeah, you can have to use, it will differentiate. You can see. So here it will show us the uh, different list, bricks list and bricks country list, and it will show me the quad list, right? So they, if they can use a similar, like it is also showing me a list for each item, and it is also show me a list for each item, then what is the difference between the for each and for iterate? Like if there is doing same things, then what is the use of that iterator, right? So for iterator what I can use, it in iterator the benefit of using a iterator is what I can use of reference. I can reference the first and last value of particular list. Suppose I want to show a particular list. Let's suppose I'm using li tag here in this li tag. Same way, instead of using template if true, I am using a div if true. So if the value is first, I want to show a class of particular SLDS border, a top. So I am showing a top border here, and after that instead of using p, just make it as a strong, and same way if it is a last item, then I have to show a border in bottom, right? So let's remove this. You can see, uh, here it is first start with Lee. It is first start. Sorry, I forgot to mention the tag here. UL. Yeah. So you can see if it is a first, then we need a border at last. First and last, we need a border, right? So it is starting. It give me the first result, that is USA. So it will give me the border here right away, and after that the value. The same goes with the it will I go it down, and in the down I need a border bottom border here, right? So same way we can do is, so the benefit of iterator is we can have the first and last value here, right? So for this we can use, if you want to perform some actions on first and last element, so we can use iterator, right? And now let's use these things. Let's combine if true statements, just like we did if true statements, right? So now just combine if true statements and the iterators based on some events, based on some value, right? So what I can do, based on some user inputs. So what I can just use, I can use a lightning input type of checkbox, and just label show bricks countries, right? And I want to on click, right? Checkbox handler event, right? If it is there, right? Same goes with, right? Type checkbox show quad countries as a quad. So if I'm selecting this, right, I need my event handler, just using show bricks, show quad, right, on particular event, right? Same goes with name of checkbox event dot target dot name, right? Equals to false. Template if true. Let's deploy. Right now it is show bricks countries and show cards countries. Okay, I didn't use this keyword right away here. So you can see if I'm not using this keyword in the variables, it is does not happening anything, right? If I click on this, you can see it is giving me show bricks countries, right? And if I'm giving here, you can see show quiet countries. So it is showing me quiet countries. I'm setting false here, so it is automatically false the value here. I also can set up this to check, may mark it as a false, right? So I can also do that like this, right? So in this way we can handle condition and iterations uh, in the single event, in a single things, and we can use a template text and all. So after that looping or iterations, we have a simple calculator objects. uh, it just like simple calculator object is means we have to create some simple object, and based on the buttons we have to calculate something. So I think you are covering all these things, so I'm not going to show you on that. So we are moving forward with the decorators. So there are three types of decorators, as I told you about the first decorators, that is a track, the second is wire, and third is API. So the track is generally used for the make it a variable to set it a reactive, like means we are handling JavaScript from to the HTML and HTML to JavaScript, something like that. So we can use that. A wire is when we have to access our Salesforce data.
Yeah, Ankit,
Then
just before going to the next topic, if there is any clarification, you can clarify those things. Many of them are
okay,
clicking, they have posted me many things in the chat. So that will be.
okay.
Uh, if you have any doubt, you can ask your doubts of
Yeah,
on
you
this.
can ask doubts.
You can unmute and you can ask the questions.
Uh, yeah, Sai Teja, yeah, we can use iterators on the UL itself. Uh, yeah, simply just like we use div tags here for the if true statements, we are not using a template tags here because we are not templating, and we are so just like we can use iterators over here as well. You
Oh,
can
with
try
the
that.
line 12, we could just remove the template and keep it as UL, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
So the iterator is a standard attribute that we could use on an tag, not just
Yes,
for
yes.
the template. Okay.
Yeah. And simple text like just like as we use the div text, and if it is not generic, we can also use like if true statements, right? If we are using if true also, right? So
Mhm.
same way we can use iterators and list.
Okay. Also for the controller, can you just open that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for declaring these arrays, the break list and the chord list, you didn't use any let or cons for this.
Yeah, because the tag let and constraint we can use inside of that scope, inside of any functions. And
Mhm.
here if we can't use, it's okay. Earlier in the like before string 2020, as we told, we have to use a track decorator for every element, like for every variable that we defined here, right? So generally it is just like a global variables, you can say, right? It is a global variables. So instead of using var or at the rate track, we can just make it as it is, just we can have to name it.
Okay.
Hi, this is Ashok. You are explained about the input and the checkboxes.
Hello, your
Hello.
voice is coming
Hello.
low.
Yeah. Is it audible my voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. You already explained about the input and checkboxes. Please explain pick list options.
Hello.
Yeah. You please explain about pick list options.
Pick list.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use just like we use a lightning input, right? If we use type checkbox, and earlier we used type checkbox, right? So here for that same things, and if you search for the lightning input here uh, in the SLDS, in the libraries, lightning input libraries. So here you can use many things like dates, times, passwords, checkbox. And the same way, if you want to use a pick list, you have to just give the value options here. There is one thing called options here. Let's one second. In the pick list we have, yeah, combo box. Forgot the syntax. So here in the combo box, it is called lightning combo box. So for that, if you want to put, so options is a list of options. Like suppose if you want to show the value here, these values as a pick list. So in the option tag, in the option tag, the brick list is coming, right? You have to mention the brick list, and in the value, whatever the value you are choosing. Suppose I'm choosing combo box with selection required, so disable combo box like in progress, or maybe I select new, right? So this will be my value, the current value. If you can see uh, value, and here in the on change event, it is just setting this dot value, whatever the event dot detail dot value, whatever the detail is value is coming, right? So here you are mentioning the value. So this is a event of detail, right? Combo box of the details of particular on change event. So this is a value, right? So if I'm selecting new here, and if I'm selecting in progress, it is giving me the in progress value, right? So it is giving me what is the value here, right? So same way you can explore these things. This is a component reference, any component library. So if you want to use anything like formatted text or buttons, or yeah, if you want to use a buttons, and in the buttons if you want to use some these icons, so you can use these things, you can explore these things.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone have doubts?
Hi, it's Bhumi this time. I saw that there's event.detail.value over here, and in previous one, the one that you wrote, that was event.target.value. So can you
Yes,
please
yes.
explain the difference when we use target and
Yeah.
detail?
Basically, if you want to use particular list of connections and you have to select between them, then you use event.detail.value. Otherwise, when you targeting something, like it is a checkbox or it is a simple input text, right? So here you can use event.target.
And how we can get the details of all these methods, like when to use event.target, event.detail, and is there any other uh, we can say placeholders like this, like maybe something else, event dot other things. So is there anything else, or just do
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
just
no,
these two things?
there are many things. You can find it when you like learn about the JavaScript events. So when you have like JavaScript events, when you learn about that, so you will know about which events we can use, right? There is one more things like query selectors, templates, dot query selectors, all. So there are different things over here.
Hi Arpit. So when can we use multiple templates? In which cases we will use multiple templates? Here you
Templates means,
means you declare another template, right, in the same template. So for the if condition and
yeah.
another for iterator. So what is in which cases we will use it actually?
Yeah, you it based on the criterias and conditions. Like you can use templates if you want, or otherwise you can use a div things, right? If you want to perform some, like I am using a border, right? I am mentioning the border over here. So I have to use in a single line, I have to put the class over here in the div condition, right, in the single piece of code. So I'm using a div tag here, and if I want to perform certain piece of code, just like if this is true, I want to perform this section, like I want to show this section, that's why I'm using a templates here.
So for the conditional statements or if else statements, mostly we use for the templates, right?
Yes, yes, mostly conditions and iterations we use templates.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. If you go on the go to the OR, when you go to the OR, the output on the page,
Okay. Yeah.
yes. If I want to see the source code of today's events or recent records, how do I find the source code behind this section?
This one.
Yes, yes, I can use that one.
This one is basically it is a standard one.
And or we can use today's event. Now, the source code of today's events.
Yeah, we can use like today, if you want to use today's records, like this one, today's event. So this is a standard components, today's events, recent records. So there is two things in the Lightning app builder page called standard components and custom components. In the custom that we created, and the standard that Salesforce give us as a standard. So if you want suppose today's task, then you can just put it here. It will give you all the tasks that are created today. And something like if you want to use tabs and recent items, same way.
But just my question is like these are productions, and then suddenly my boss wants me to change the source code of, for example, my first WLWC, my first Lightning component. So how do I find the source code of behind my first LWC? Because It's
Okay.
kind of like you already check in, check out something.
So okay, so you are want to find the source code of that, right?
Yes, yes.
So you can just put it. You want to know which component, which class, like which lightning component name is this component, right?
Right. So I want it to pop up. Oh, if you
So-
want to change this one, here is the source code of JavaScript and source code of XML and source code of HTML.
So yeah, you just can select over here the component, and it will give you. You can see C first LWC, right? So it is giving you the component name.
No. I want the like my file name, the file name that you need to check out from the source code is called firstwc.html. That's what I want to see.
For these recent records and for these standard records, you can't get the source code. It is a standard
Yeah.
by Salesforce itself.
Standard components code, source code we can't able to see.
Okay. How about I want to see my custom source code of my first LWC.
For that, you have to go to Visual
You
Studio
go
Code
to
and
there's two options. Either you can like find it the name here with the like in the console, like just I show you like this, right? You can find the component name and you can search it, and you have to first export all the LWC, all the things inside a VS Code, inside the VS Code project. And here in the Force app main default tab, you can find your LWCs, all the LWC listed.
But how do I know that my source code is called first LWC? How do I know? By looking at the page.
Just by the like titles.
Title?
Yeah.
Okay. So the hint is title.
Yeah. You can use titles for the differentiate between the components. And like many developers use titles, or many use either you can use check it, like if I'm using here, I'm using a lightning input of type checkbox, and I'm showing the label right here, show bricks country. So you can just use it and you can find it here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone? No?
yes, you can go into wiring.
Yeah.
Decorators.
So I told you about like when to use track. When to use track is something when we have to make complex object, when we have some complex object or some complex array, then we have to use a track operators. Otherwise we can just skip it and we can use same general scope variables, and we don't have to mention any particular data type, any variable before the variable we mentioned. And when to use wire, so these when we want to access Salesforce data into our LWC component, then we have to use a wire. So there is two things that we can call Apex methods or access Salesforce data. So first is a wire, and second thing is imperative method. So we will talk about both. So first talk about let's wire. So for the accessing a Salesforce data, we use a wire property. So and also we can call, if we want to call a particular Apex method inside our component, so we can use for the component, for the class method, we have to use @aura enable annotation with the cacheable true. Benefit of that cacheable true is making method improve your components performance. Like if there are already some datas in a cacheable and you want to search that particular data only, then you can use cacheable true, so it can improve your components performance, and it can fast your performance by like milliseconds, and also this will matter. So like it will by quickly showing the cache data from the client side storage without going, yeah, without waiting for a server trip, right? Once you call a apex method, it go into the server, Salesforce server, from JavaScript, right, from client side to server. And if you use the cacheable true, it means you don't have to ping again the server, right? So it give you the greater performance. And if the cache data is stalled, like it is already there, the framework retrieve the latest data from the server. So caching is especially beneficial for users on like high latency, slow or unreliable connections, where you want us, where you have some low connections. So the data will coming as a cache, and cacheable methods perform better. So if you want to use, you can use. So yeah, so let's start with that. Let's create one wire LWC. I will delete that. Here in the beta, I will just copy. Just deploy. So I have one scenario. I have to search the account based on the input data I'm providing, right? So what I can use, card title, in the div, I'm using a standard div tag, and in the div tag I can use SLDS class. So it is SLDS basically a lightning design system card. So it is basically used for the beautify the UI. So here I'm using a lightning search input of type search. I have to search, right? Bottom small, and so on change I have to show the value, right? So for this, now I want to fetch the data from a server, right? For this I have to create a one class. So let's create a Apex class, account details, just using a public class here. And in the account details, I can use a method I'm returning a list of account get accounts, and here I'm putting connection here or enabled. Let's make it yeah, I already have created that. So instead of doing this based on some search, right? This is a basic Apex class. Now I want to import this class of this particular method, right? So what I can use in the JS, can write import. So first, as I told you, we need to import the class into JS controller. So how to import? We have to use a simple text. So what is the text? You have to name it, what variables you are mentioning here, and from which things you are mentioning, which thing you are referring. So if I want to import Apex code, I can just use simple text. What is it mean by @Salesforce Apex? So this will be the standard namespace. So whatever the namespace here, so you can just name it, you can just leave it here, and whatever the class name dot Apex method. So here let's use @Salesforce Apex. Yeah, I have that Apex. And then I want this class of this method, right? So this is it. And after that, we want a handle on change event, right? On particular event, I want a search key, right? So this dot search key, what will be the value? Event dot target dot value, right? So this will give me whatever I'm typing here, this will give me the result. And after that I will need to call this method, right? So how to call that? I can use a wire function here. So there are three things we can call apex method, right? Wire a property, wire a function, and call a method imperatively. So I'm right now I'm showing a wire a function directly. So like wire get accounts comma the parameter. So get accounts means I'm referring this get account, not this account, right? If I'm changing here get account of value, let's suppose I have to mention this in here, and yeah, I am importing a wire here, wire property, and I need to pass parameter here, right? Whatever the parameter. So make sure like you use the same parameter name, the case sensitive. The JavaScript is very case sensitive, so you have to write exactly the same letters. Otherwise, it will not pass any parameters. And inside these parameters, you have to use a dollar sign binding. You have to bind the variable and binding of that search key. So whatever you typing, you have to give the results, right? And just accounts. This is the variable that hold this return type, this list of account, right? So what I'm doing is I am calling, I'm importing the apex method, then I'm wired up this method, and I'm, if these are some parameters, right? So I'm passing one parameter and I'm binding this whatever I have to give the input. So whatever I have get the value, I am inputting this, I am binding this, and if this is returning something, right? It is returning me a list of account, returning list of accounts. So it is giving me the accounts here, right? Now I have to show this account in the HTML site. So how to use that? We can just go into that. We can use template if true statements. So if true, you can use for the list as well. So here what it is mean by if true, so it will automatically check if these accounts have value. Is this account variable of wired variable have some value, then it will show me the data, right? And then this will give me a list of accounts. So for iterate, I am using a template of for each, right? I want for each of account, for each item, right? So I'm using a variable called ACC, and I'm using another tag here, lightning layout. So it will give me the list, right? acc.id, right? The key will be unique, so it will give me, and I am using a bullets here. So here I have to show account name, maybe account number, right? Let's save it, deploy, search key, right? So this wire will get called if it have some value, right? If search key have some value, it will invoke automatically the wire property, right? So it is deployed. Let's go into that and edit page. Let's remove these things. Want to show. Now you can see wire function is available for me. Okay, it is giving me an error. What's that error? I'm missing something. Get account string of search key. It's fine. It's okay. We couldn't display wire functions. NN is not a function. Okay, let's use it. Maybe I'm using connect page. Okay, I think it is giving me error. Let's comment one by one. I am okay. It means there are think I am doing second. I will just put it here. It's not showing me my another component as well. Yeah, it is working fine. Okay, I think I didn't mention the accounts here. No, this is not. is not.
Can you check on console.log and you can check that whether the output is coming from the wire?
Yeah, wire is coming, I think fine, because I deploy it and it didn't give me an error. We'll check here. Yeah, it is giving me a value. It's not showing here, I think. Let's remove these things. Let's show only a name here. For each accounts. there is something that, because it is giving me all the details but not displaying right away. Okay, I will take a look on that, but the method is the same, like when you has wire as a function, so you just call a function, it is called a get accounts, and we take a variables here, and in that variables we put our search key elements here. So in that search key elements we can use whatever we are sending and get the accounts details here. Now if we want to use a wire as a property, so what is mean by wire as a property, we can handle the error and data as well. We can handle the data and yeah, so we can handle the data and the errors. So suppose I want my uh, show errors, right? So what I can call, I can call this wire element, and in that wire element I am calling a property like wire account, and in that I will take a two value, a data and the error. This is a syntax, right? A data and an error. For this, if I have value, so let's suppose if I get a successful response, then I will show the data like this dot accounts. I will map it is to the data, and this dot error I will set is as a undefined. Else means I have some error, so I will set it as a undefined. And I get the error, right? So this dot error will show me this error, right? And this I can mentioning it here, so I can get the value of error. Yeah, it is deployed successfully. I will change it to wired property. Right, so if I am inputting here, you can see I can get the details. Let me remove that. Now if I'm typing something, suppose I'm typing you can see based on that data, based on the value I'm inputting, it is giving me all of the accounts name, right? If I putting alag, and right now united, right? So it is giving me all the head yet united, right? So this way we can use, it is giving me data, so it means giving me a data, right? So it is showing me the data. If it will give me an error, so then the error will show me right below here, right? So that's why any confusion on that? So this way we can use it.
You can unmute and you can ask me questions.
Yeah.
So we have to mention like a data comma error, particularly to run this one.
Yeah, this is like functions for that, and in that functions if we are writing as a property, like it is a wired property, so it means we have to use, just call it account and just give the name here, like give the value here. But if you want to handle some errors, then you can use a data comma error, and just like handled a response, we use a connected callback and we are handling a result and error, right? So we can mentioning a data and error. So first parameter will give us the data, the actual data, when this method will run successfully, otherwise it will give the error.
Arpit, what we have written in line 9 and 10, can you explain?
Which one?
Line number 9 and 10. Like
yes,
in
yes,
10.
yes. Here you can see, if you're writing this, it is called like wired property, right? So we are using just simple, we are mentioning a variables and just give the showing the data right away. So, but suppose if you want to handle the error, or maybe you don't want to show all the data, right? If you want to manipulate the data right away here, like if I'm getting a data, based on some data I want to perform some action, right? I want to show some data or hide some data or maybe perform some actions, then I can use this type of wired property, wire function.
Okay, so that wired function we have referred in HTML. Wired account. Wired account.
Yes. This one we have to mention the name here instead of accounts, like we just mentioning here, right? Accounts, the name here, right?
Yes.
So same way we have to mention the name here, whatever the name, and the name, and it will give me the result, right? Data and error. So in the middle brackets, curly braces, we have to mention data comma error.
Okay, like in HTML we have used that or not?
Error we used, right?
Oh yeah, fine. Thank you.
So just for my confirmation, whenever there will be a change in the search text box, so it will automatically picked up by this wired accounts and it will get me the accounts from the Salesforce environment.
Yes, yes. Basically what is happen when we using this binding, right? So if it doesn't have value, then this wire property will not invoke. As soon as they have some value on the search, on this key, search key, it will automatically get fired.
But what in the case of like white spaces or tabs, will that be counted as a value or not?
Yes. Like if you're giving, it is basically like on change, it is giving me error, right? It is giving me the value, right? Something like a space or something, right? Then it will automatically fire that wire.
Okay. And what is the best practice? What should be used, wired as a property or wired as a function?
Like basically it depends on your criteria, it depends on your criteria or your requirement. If you want to just show the data, right? You don't want to manipulate, or you don't want to doing some operations based on that data, then it's fine. You can just use wired as a property, right away, because it's a single piece of code. And if you want to perform some action on the data, or if you want to handle an error, like means if you know that this method or these actions can get some error, and I want to show to the users that these users this error is coming, you have to do this, or based on some error you have to perform some actions, and based on some data, like if you want to show only data dot account number, like if account number is greater than 1000 or 2000, right? So you can do something here.
Yeah, so my question is based around that what is the best practices? Should we put the business logic in the Apex classes or in the individual components?
Based on like I didn't get it.
I mean to say that the business logic, the data manipulation that we need to do, it should be in the Apex classes or in the Lightning components.
It should be in the client side. Obviously, we want a less trip on the server side. So if you want to filter, or if you want to do some operations, you can in the JavaScript controller. You have to do it right away in the JavaScript controller. And if you can't do something, like you are bound to do in the server side, then do it in the method. But best practice is do it in the JavaScript controller. So that's why, because it can count less your trip to the server side and give better performance of a component.
And in this scenario, the data will be kept in the cache, and the filter will be happening, right?
Which one?
For this wire thing we are searching, no? That time the data will be kept in the cache, and the filter will be happen based on the cache. If any
yes.
changes happening at the backend, then only it will call to the server.
Yeah.
So, but if we are caching the data, so what is the time period that cached will be refreshed with new data? Is there any timeline on that?
No, is there no like timeline? There is nothing timeline. It just like give the less server type. Like caching is especially like when we have the data is stalled, right? And the framework retrieve the latest data from the server. When we have the data is in stall, then automatically it will get refreshed.
Okay.
That tunnel is done at the back end by Salesforce itself. We don't want to worry about this. Whenever the data is updated over there,
if you want to like check performance of that, because we search for that United, right? So if you want, I can show you. Maybe like if you, right, it is going me 0 second, like milliseconds, right? It is giving me, and I search for the United, right? And now I am search for Salesforce, right? It is giving me 1200 milliseconds, right? Now if I'm search for United, you can see for I'm searching for this, it is giving me 869 milliseconds, and this was already in cache, so it is giving me 444 milliseconds. Got it?
Yeah, thanks.
That is why it gives you better performance, because every milliseconds in counts when we done some more complex work, right?
Could you please explain one scenario for the error? Like when we want to display the error, it's a kind of exception or the custom errors. What would be the scenario?
Error that is you can, if you give that, if this one is failed, right? Suppose let's give you one example here. I have to look into the examples right away. Let's suppose I am limit to here and I am referring here. You see, object is coming means it's some error. So if you want to show this error, just you can use, because it's in object, so stringify error. Right, it is giving me like list index out of 1. You can see this one is error coming. So based on that, suppose if you want to use in the body, right, in the body you want to show the message, so what you can do, you can just go like error dot body. Here you can show that body, and dot message. Is not loading right now.
Mostly we'll be giving our own message only. You know, based on the error ID, we'll be displaying our own, because the customers, the end users should not be confused with the system message.
Yeah, so that is why like it is giving you error, and you have to parse it down to the get the message, and based on the message, because user the end user can't understand our technical error, right? So we have to use that it is giving more than one result and more than two results, something like that. It is not showing me.
Arpit, just a quick question. Like we are trying to change the code and constantly deploying it to the org, right? It's kind of taking some time. Like, do we have
Yes.
any local environment that we could use to test our
For the cells, like if we are getting, we have to get the some data, right? Then we have to use it like the way, this way. And like if you just don't have some interaction with the Salesforce, right? So you can use your local development, like just we use a LWC, we created first LWC, right? Here we are not interacting with the Salesforce, right?
Mhm.
So this thing we can use a local LWC local development. So there is certain step to enable the local development environment in your machine. So you can
We have
just search
something
it
for
out.
that, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
I was just curious about that because
Yes.
yeah.
But if you had to interact with Salesforce, then you have to like deploy it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, anything?
Do you have any doubts or clarifications? Okay, then
Yeah, JSON dot string file, like it will convert that error into string. Like
Yes.
what format we will get the output?
Come as a object.
Okay, means
Is object. If you want to show it to the end user, then you have to make it convert it to the string. If is in a string.
means whatever
Basically.
message in class will be coming, so that will be shown.
Yes. And make sure you use capital JSON and small stringify, because JavaScript is a case sensitive. So
Can we use deserialize method as well for JSON to pass the error?
yeah, we can use the deserialization as well, just like this and that deserialization. But I think it is useful only on the Apex. For the stringify, we can just use error, right? So it will give me the string like a prettier format, and it will display.
And just curious about how we can manipulate this standard error message with the customers. Like you said that the end user will not be available to understand the system generated errors, so we will be showing them our custom messages. So how we can do that?
Yeah, just like see in the error, this error is coming like
It's like
like
a kind
this,
of
right?
object, right?
Like
Yeah.
this, yeah, object, right? So for parsing an object, we can just like as we use a student like in that let me show you in the HTML file we use,
Arpit,
right?
just try logging the error object itself and like show that.
What?
No, I mean, you could log the error object, and with like from there you could check if you're able to
Yes.
access the body and
Like
the.
this error
I mean, like
dot
console.log
body,
of
like
the. Yeah,
yes.
Within that you could.
Yes. Or like I want to show to the users, right? So I can use a error dot body is equals to something, right? So or I can mention this like this dot uh, actual error, or maybe like error message, and I will show this error dot body, right? So same way I can get the body, like I can basically it's just a parsing of JSON, right? We get the error in this format, in JSON format, right? So in the after the status I get the body, right? I get the body, and in this body I have what is the exception type, right? What is the message and what is the stack tracing, right? So I can use of that message just like we use a object, as I give you the example of that particular object, we can just use it.
Okay. And just one more clarifications. Can you repeat the explanation for the key while whatever we are using in the iterator or for each? Is it a mandatory thing? And if it is, then what is the use of that? I mean, we will have a unique value for all the values for the list, but what is the use of maintaining that key?
Basically, I will give you one use case. Basically, if you suppose you are showing the list of records, right? And if you want to select multiple records, right? And after, like, if you want to delete multiple records, right? Then you have to select, you can provide a checkbox and select, right? So based on that key, you get the particular IDs or different IDs on that records, and you can perform actions. Got it?
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
Can we do the DML with the wire operator, with the wire decorator?
Yeah, like here we can call it, right? We are using, we are just passing the values here, right? So we can put any DMLs operations, and for the DMLs we can get the IDs and all.
Okay. No, what I heard is to do the DML, we have to go in another way, right? Imperative way.
Yeah, imperative, basically, I will tell you about that. There is this, as I told you about the three sections, three things, like wire a property, wire a function, and call a method imperatively. So imperatively, just like if you want to perform actions on, let's suppose, like on click of a button you want to call Apex, right?
Yes.
So then you can use imperatively methods. So I will tell you about this in the next session.
Okay, I think it's already 1:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Anand, and thanks all of you.
Thank you for your.
We will meet tomorrow.
Discussion. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your time for learning these things.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just go and practice yourself. Then only will be clear on those things.
Sir, try to upload by today, sir.
Yes, I will do it. But the thing is, the 4-hour video now, so it will take me for getting the recording itself, it will take around 6 to 8, 7 hours. So after 7 o'clock, I will be getting the recording from Zoom. That's what the problem. So after that, I have to edit it and I have to post it. Okay. Mostly, I will try to do as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.